how did you like working with Bruce Prichard behind the scenes?
Along with Bruce, I actually didn't have that much to do with him. He was like more involved with the magazine when I was there, and right when I left, I was like transitioning away from being more involved with the creative side and putting a lot more emphasis in the travel detailed stuff, contract negotiations, and not so much with the creative, because that's a huge responsibility. And Bruce kind of eased into that role, and he's a very smart guy. Goes back to working for Paul Bosch, so he's got that good foundation. And he's a good guy that I consider a friend and have respect for.
And he kind of had a contrasting opinion of Jerry Jarrett than you do from what I read about you in your book. Bruce has talked a lot lately about he thinks Jerry Jarrett was overrated and he didn't really provide much positive input to WWE, and he has also claimed that the rumors that when Vince looked like Vince was possibly going to spend some jail time and Jerry Jarrett was allegedly going to be replacing Vince had he gone to jail. Bruce said that there was nothing to that, but when I read your book, you kind of confirmed that.
Yeah, I had a role in all that.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if you could tell us your opinion on Jerry Jarrett and what his contributions were to WWE when he was brought in as a consultant, I believe.
I'm a big Jerry Jarrett fan. Worked for him when he and Lawler had Memphis and Nashville. Jerry has his style, but he's got such a wealth of knowledge. And I think one of the treasures of our business. And when Vince was under investigation, and Vince kind of, his thought process was, well, if the federal government spends this much money to try and nail me for something, whether they've got a strong case or not, even if it's a weak case, when they spend that kind of money, they're going to get some pound of flesh for what they invested. So Vince kind of just thought, having said all that, I might end up getting found guilty of something, not because I am guilty, just because it's tough to fight the federal government with all of their resources and all their power. And he used to talk with Pat and I, and he'd say, hey, if they, you never know in a court of law, and with their resources and what have you, if I end up, they find me guilty of something, and I have to do time, you and Pat, talking to us collectively, said you'd have to come up business days and bring your legal pad and pencil, and we'll take notes, and you guys are going to have to keep the ball rolling. And we just used to, yeah, sure, Vince, yeah. And then it was like looking for some insurance. And I told Vince, I said, there's one guy who, all my years of all the places that I've gone and people, I know most of the who's who of our business. And I said, there's one guy who has done everything that you have done, Vince, though on a much, much smaller scale. And that was Jerry Jarrett. Because he had been a talent. He had been a booker. He understood that. And he understood television production, understood all aspects, and had been very successful. And I said, if there's a guy who you temporarily were on hiatus, he's the one guy that I would say could come in, and there's nobody out there that can replace you. But there's one guy that has the credentials to be able to keep things going until you could get back in and take the reins again. And he said, call him and have him call me. That resulted in about 3 multi-hour conversations between Vince and Jerry Jarrett. Then Vince said, call Jerry, I would like him to come up and stay at the house with me for, I think he stayed there for over a month, might have been as much as almost 2 months, where he lived with Vince, had meals with him, and then finally Vince said, put Jerry under contract. So I arranged to negotiate with Jerry, put him under a contract for a year, and he said, have him come up here, and initially we'll put him in like one of these Homewood suites or something suites type of thing where he could, if he wanted to do some of his own meals or whatever. And the only thing was Jerry's son was a senior in college, and he was the football quarterback. Jerry wanted to be able to fly home every Friday to watch his son play football. Vince said, not a problem. Then he can fly back Sunday, and I took care of all of that. So Jerry had a contract. He stayed with Vince's house for a couple of weeks. Then he had me do the contract, had Jerry come up, and then during that period of time, the charges against Vince were dropped. And Jerry finally said to me one day, he said, because I had been friends with Jerry for a long time and had a relationship with him, he said, I understand what the plan was, and he said, I was behind it. And he said, but now that Vince's legal situation has resolved itself, he said, I feel bad about having a contract and being paid and you the expense of me coming up here when what I can offer now is not as essential as it might have been had it played out differently legally with Vince. So I went back to Vince. I said, Jerry approached me and said that he loves working here, loves all, but for him to fly back and forth and the expense of the company, and he's a businessman. It's not like the contract he entered in good faith thinking that that's how it was going to play out, and it hasn't played out that way. And now he's, I feel bad that you guys are paying me because now Vince is back in control of everything. And Vince said, okay, make arrangements for Jerry to go back home. And he said, and I want to pay out the balance of Jerry's contract. So I went to Jerry and I said, okay, Vince understands and appreciates your love for the business, your honesty, and not wanting to continue this arrangement now that the landscape has changed. However, Vince said he still, because of what everybody's intentions were, he wants to go ahead and honor the terms and pay out your contract. Jay doesn't need to do that, I don't want to be paid. No, Vince wants to do that, and that's the end of it. And that's how it played out.